Okay, we're going to talk briefly about the Inflation Reduction Act. The 3 points going to look at. Excuse me, I need to change something so I can see my slides. Okay, the Inflation Reduction Act's projected greenhouse gas cuts and the downside and upside potential for those greenhouse gas cuts and for environmental justice. The specific actions needed to maximize our IRA potential, and we'll look into things that we can do, that we're going to try to do through this. And what I have here is not final. It is in process. So go to the next slide. Okay, why is it? Okay. All right. So the Inflation Reduction Act, as you know, is a huge step for climate change. Estimated 40% pollution cuts by 2030. Now, here is a list. Every one of those underlined black things is a separate program, many of them multi-billion programs. And there's a lot for us to divide and conquer in terms of all of the stuff in the IRA. Here is a list of the U.S. greenhouse gas emissions over the past 15, 16 years. And it probably is a little bit understated because the carbon content of goods manufactured in China, of which there's a lot, are charged to China emissions, not to ours. But ultimately, we should be responsible. And the greenhouse gas emissions is severely undercounted at this point. And so that would change things some, but it's going down slowly, not anywhere near enough. So business as usual projects that it will continue to go down. And they're showing this cone is the range with their best estimate at 27%. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act, based on one of the models, brings it down quite a bit more than that. But you'll notice they have a huge range. And some of that is just the uncertainties of a model. But some of that may have to do with how well people actually use the funds, whether they use the fund. Obviously, if none of the funds were used, it wouldn't have any effect. And so that's going to be one of the factors. Now, this has 4 different models, one from the Rhodium Group, one from Princeton, one from Energy Innovation, and one from the Department of Energy. And these are all different they're both high and low projections. For example, this yellow one has a conservative, probable, and best case range. And that's true. And so you'll notice that there is a range of possibilities, and the cones will be different. But they tend to all come down to around 42% as their best estimate. The Rhodium Group believes that most of the reductions will come from electric power, with some important start in reducing the greenhouse gases from industry, a significant increase in carbon removal, both natural and technological, and a small reduction in transportation. Now, here is one of the challenges with a model is what are the assumptions? And so here is the Rhodium Group's estimate of how many, at any point in time, of the new vehicles purchased are of the cars are new. And you'll see that they have a huge range from 19% to 57% in 2030. And they have an increase. There are some who think it could be much higher than 57%, because it could be that they become. And so I'm gonna address that issue first. How the IRA cuts greenhouse gases is mostly by the change in clean energy, renewable energies, especially replacing fossil fuels. The second thing that it is doing is to make very powerful electric vehicle incentives. And one of the models says that the reduction in the IRA effect will be understated because a lot of old vehicles are gasoline, and it'll take time for those to get off the road. And that once the momentum is there, it will continue. And then, of course, there's the methane pollution fee, building electrification and efficiency, natural climate solutions and direct air capture, and innovations in research, all of which are getting a big boost from the IRA. Now, how might we get more greenhouse gas cuts out of this? Well, one of the clear things is more rapid adoption, and related to that is new technologies and innovation that models can't handle things that are new. They have to take what we know already and then project that no changes, nothing new will come along, and based on that, this is what will happen. Now, I would challenge the slow adoption, the industry-based adoption rates of some of this. And I want to just show you briefly. Notice that the Model T had a tremendous increase over a period of only 8 years. They went from about 50,000 to 500,000 per year. Another example is the smartphone. And of course, people didn't think they would grow this kind of way, but again, we had from 122 to 1244 in just 8 years. That's a 10-fold increase. So it is possible, and part of that is when there's a new technology, if it's cool to buy an electric vehicle, if it's cheaper to buy an electric vehicle, and if the running expenses and the operating are cheaper, then it can kind of balloon once it hits a critical level. So we want to get to those critical levels faster. Additional federal policies could also help, and even state and local policies. And as I said, increase popularity for all of the aspects of the new clean energy economy. So we want to get the maximum out of the IRA that we can. That, to me, is the most important thing, at least over the next couple of years, that we can do. But we also need to not forget that the IRA is also looking to really do a lot for disadvantaged communities. They have money for projects, transit, reduced pollution, energy efficiency, affordable housing. Many of the grants give preference for the first 30% to disadvantaged communities, but it's going to be hard for many of them to do it. First of all, they don't know what's available, and it'll be a challenge getting that knowledge across. It also, for the grants that are done, it is hard to design, manage, and apply for the money. The bureaucratic and other hurdles, the way they're doing it, the way they have to do it with many projects, is going to make it especially hard on the EJ community. And of course, if you're in a survival mode, it makes it harder for you to wade through all the changes that will help the climate. So there's a need to help that group too. Okay, I'm going to pause here, and Bruce, can you unmute? I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Allow people to unmute themselves. And are there any questions with what I just went over? Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you. I imagine you'll get into it later, but let me just mention, I've been doing a lot of work with rural and specifically IRA rural. And the word is getting out, and it's getting out through USDA, and it's getting out. I work at A&M, and every single, almost every small town in the state of Texas has an A&M office for a land office type of thing. And the sustainability group at A&M is trying to push the notices about the IRA and the grants available to the rural areas. And I just wanted to make that point.
That's fantastic. Is this only the grants, or does this have to do with rebates, tax credits, or?
It's mostly the IRA. What can the farmers get their hands on right away? So broadband is a huge piece of that, but also the idea of training them in the use of internet and why you need to even have it.
Sure.
How do you use it? That sort of thing. That's in the IRA, and I don't know how much the TAMU offices are pushing that, but they are pushing the grants as opposed to what you were just saying.
And one of the challenges of the grants, usually a single farmer can't get a grant. They have to have a supervising body, is my understanding, that
Yes.
is responsible to do it and manage. Is A&M doing that? Because I know some universities can't.
I don't know, but I am going to be pushing hard to find out. I work
That's
in
good.
I'm in IT, and I'm in what's called tech services IT, which covers everybody. But I know a lot of the people at the sustainability group inside of A&M, which by the way is quite good. If you go to sustainability.tamu.edu, you can find some amazing stuff. Anyway, the point I'm making is that there needs to be a very explicit mention of rural, if you would, in your presentation. I highly recommend.
What I would add to that is great information. That information is not available to a lot of other organizations. I was in a meeting today with several organizations trying to figure out, and so there is a sense that there is still the belief, and some of them who work in the Valley have a strong feeling that a number of these grants, they're not even sure who's going to be able to apply for them. But I'm glad the agricultural part is being.
Well, I know that it's being looked at. I'm going to be pushing hard to find out exactly how much, and I'm going to try and push as much as I can. By the way, in the Valley, tell people to go to UTRGV, the Rio Grande Valley UT. They have some fantastic resources, and they aren't very good about spreading out and telling people what they do and how they do it. If you know of people in the Valley that need to have information sources, push them to UTRGV.
I'll pass that on, but I do believe that there still is going to be a real challenge to get many of these grants actually used, and the kind of information you have is what we need to collect and then make available to all the other people, because a lot of people who are trying didn't know that, and that's part of the whole idea of this. Yes, Steve. Oh, I guess Steve changed his mind.
Looks like he went away. It looks like he went away. I saw his hand wave, but anyway.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions before I proceed? Yes, Richard.
So first of all, that was a terrific short presentation, Bob. You exceeded your brilliance only by your speed of presentation.
Not true, by the way, but go ahead.
I know. Well, that did go far. And second, it was so important that Charlie spoke up about this, because you're right. Capturing what people are already doing and learning from that and making each then iteration of those how-to materials available to a wider group of people is what's going to speed up the spread out of this critical information. So thank you, Charlie, for doing that.
Yes,
and,
thank
and
you.
capturing that and getting it to Bob or whoever becomes a central communication information coordinator here.
Well, hopefully someone else will step to it. But Dave Henley, did you have your hand up?
I did have my hand up. Do you know of any of the federal agencies that are instrumental in passing out some of the federal funds have offered any kind of guidance at all, like the USDA, or they have a hand in this? I understand.
There are actual education programs by them. I am not well-versed in all the IRA stuff. That's why we need this. There's so many things to look at that we need people to go find out the specifics. But I do know that there are actual education efforts in most of the departments that are supervising the grants to help get the word out. But there still are going to be some barriers, especially for EJ communities. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish this, the next section of my presentation. Okay. Come on. Sometimes my computer doesn't want to advance slides. I'm sorry. That makes no sense. Oh, I did now. Okay, so we're forming a statewide volunteer FastTrack team. There are nonprofits who are working on this, and even a few have a staff person working on it, and a lot of them are pretty strapped, or they're doing so much. So if we volunteers can get involved, we can do so much more because of our contacts, our locations, and so forth. So the whole idea of this is simply to get the climate funds used as soon and as effectively as possible, and especially in underserved communities. So one of the first things is we need to identify what groups are doing and where the holes are, and where they are, we fill these holes. And where we find barriers, we figure out how to tear them down. And but it's a very simple purpose. And what I have as an initial structure, and this structure can change, I'm a big believer in grassroots. So we're going to start out with some working groups that will have some ability to adapt what I have come up as an initial structure. There are 4 working groups that I have defined. One big one is research, to find and organize information. And I suspect that people throughout the state and even the nation will utilize this information once we collect it and put it in an easy to use manner, form. We need communications and public education. We need to get the word out about the tax credits, the rebates. We need to get the word out to cities who don't have anything. Another one is advocacy. We need to use our people power to help get programs through. One example of I wish we had started early, a first grant, and I forget the name of the program, but it was for for the major cities and all the states. It was $1 million just to develop a climate plan and start implementing it, with millions more to come if you start this. We did get Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and McAllen applied for their metros, but Houston did not apply. And I wish we had been on them, pushing for them to do that. That's just one example. And finally, we're going to have local specialists, people who are in their community, have much more impact than people, in Austin. And so they can utilize the resources to help get IRA funds used, help for presentations, help for local advocacy, communication with other organizations. And so those are going to be very important teams. I hope the teams end up with more than just one, but that's it. So those are, and I'm going to go now through each of those a little bit more. Okay, and we're going to start quickly with these. The volunteers in this working group, and once again, I'm sure there'll be more things identified. They're going to take 1 or 2 departments overseeing the 90+ programs and help identify basic information about them. And then they'll add to a spreadsheet of target recipients. So if someone is, for example, wanting to work with school districts, and they're wanting to know, well, what does the IRA have that school districts can apply for? And is the application available? And how do they get a hold of the application? And what's the deadline? Then we want to have a single sheet that has everything people concerned about school districts would need to know. And we've identified about a dozen recipients already, but we can add more, and then the research team can proceed to fill in the information.
Hey, Bob.
Yes,
Charlie, you have a question? You can unmute yourself.
Not yet. Just keep going. I didn't want to
Okay.
flow, but I had some other ideas.
yeah,
I've also been putting some stuff in the chat if you want to check it out.
okay. So another task is to gather information about those relevant programs into the categories of recipients, as I just kind of said. We want to monitor the announcements coming out from the agencies about application dates and deadlines for programs. We want to find information and tools on the internet, collect it and organize it into an annotated list others can use. This can be useful for presentations, for communications, and for advocacy all. Find information that will help other teams. If teams need some information, I hope they can ask the research team and someone may grab it and find out. Gather a list of agencies, non-governmental organizations, government entities who are involved in IRA work with their contact information. Find out who else is doing what and look to collaborate with them. So we're not reinventing the wheel 50 times, but we actually work together to build a bigger wheel. So this is one of the things that I said was to take an agency. So here are the different agencies and at least an initial list of programs that the Sierra Club has come up with. And they already have a sheet of information about each of these programs. I mean, each of these, a sheet that has all of these programs on it. So a person would say, take Department of Interior, and they would examine these and they'd say, okay, we don't need to be doing this one or this one or this one, but we need to get involved in this one and start working on what it needs to be gathered. So one person is not going to be doing all of this. It'll be divided up into different people. So the specific job of any person would be more limited, although as you can do as much as you want. You can sign up for as many of these as you want. But it isn't necessary that people do everything. Communications and public education. I know that there are already tax credits available, and I would say that probably 90% of the people who would use them if they know about them don't know about them. Presentations to do that, social media posts, letters to the editor, and op-eds. We also want some people to collect stories because they are generally the most powerful.
On the rack by the tool shed.
The next group would be the local specialists, and this would be volunteers working to increase the funds use in their area as needs and opportunities arise. They will have a lot of choice in deciding what to work on. So each local specialist may not be doing the same thing, but this will include advocacy to the local governments, public education, and we hopefully will have presentations that you don't have to develop one. You just pick from one of the ones that's already designed and go give it. Or you can even ask for someone via Zoom to do a presentation for you. Networking with other groups, especially EJ groups, so that there are smaller groups who are interested in this, who are in your city that we wouldn't pick up in Austin. So the other working groups will provide local groups with information and support, making those tasks easier. Okay, so the final working group is I'm calling it the advocacy working group. And here, some will sign up to focus on a particular class or recipient statewide, such as churches, public transit, electric transit, and advocate to those churches or to those public transit companies about how, please use these funds. Here's what they are. Here's how they'll actually save you money, and so forth. Have advocates to sign up to entities where no local specialist is available. So like we need to pressure Brownsville to do something, and if we don't have a local specialist there, then we can have someone from elsewhere in the state to work on that. If it's, and also to examine the state agency, like most of the rebates require the agency to accept funds and write rules. And we want to make sure they do that. And if necessary, we can start a whole campaign to encourage that. And finally, if the U.S. House tries to cut IRA funds, which some are trying to, then we probably would want our advocacy working group to do some work to lobby members of Congress to stop that. So those are the four groups as I've defined it. The working groups can adjust what they do. I wanted to have some structure to get us going, and I'm sure they will be refined. It'd be far better than anything I had in mind by the time it's done. And of course, volunteers can decide, hey, I think this is important, or I think this is something I'm really good at, and it is important, so I'm going to do that. So maybe it isn't the biggest thing in a community, but if it's the best fit, then that's great. That's not a problem. So the next steps.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah,
Richard has a question. I think I want to interject it right now. And I'm not quite sure. Is there another more basic group that is finding partners to this effort who don't yet know how valuable joining up with us would be?
we have not reached out to all of the other groups. Most of the climate organizations are staff driven, not volunteer driven. Climate Reality is trying to get this kind of thing going. And I don't know how many volunteers they would have to support this. I haven't contacted them yet. Sunrise Movement might be interested. I haven't contacted them yet. It's kind of a whirlwind, and I'm hoping we'll have some other people to help with those contacts. But we welcome any other groups. Okay, so I think this may be my last slide. Next steps. Of course, we could really use some working group co-leaders. I want to at least start out as a co-leader for each of these working groups, but I sure could use help. We'll have working group meetings soon with specific tasks that people can sign up for and start working on. We'll be ready to go, and we'll have the electronic signups will be ready by the time of the meeting, so people who can't meet the meeting can still do that. And so I have gone ahead and made some times, and I know some people who want to join these may not be able to make these times, but we will have ways of doing it, and we'll try to, if necessary, adjust some of the times later. So the research working group, I'd like to have a meeting this Sunday, May the 7th at 4 p.m. Once again, you'll be able to sign up for tasks at that meeting and after it. The communications education group, I figured we could meet Monday, May the 8th, this coming Monday at 7 p.m. Same thing, we'll have tasks to sign up for. The advocacy group, I'd like to meet Thursday, May the 11th at 6 p.m. And this, I don't have a task right now, but we have areas that people can sign up to start monitoring. And again, local specialists, we're gonna meet a week from Sunday on May 14th at 4 p.m. And I would like to talk to those of you who can do this about options, because this is an important and a highly variable position in my initial thinking. So that's basically what I have. I'm going to stop sharing, and we have plenty of time for discussion, questions, and I hope
Bob,
you're excited about this.
Put your last slide up real quick. I'm putting those 4 dates in the chat.
All right. Let me see. I will send these dates to everyone who registered. If you haven't registered, please put your name and want to participate in any of these, please put your name in the chat. And if you want to get notices to all of them, you can just not say, and if you want just one of them, just say which working group you want to be a part of. Okay, you got it, Bruce?
Not quite.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, here's the other one. Sunday at 4. My chat box was in front of it.
Many of the state organizations who may want staff involvement or to be involved, but have, are using staff, are heavily involved in the Texas legislature, which ends this month. And so we may get some additional support after this month. Okay, I see Dave. Go ahead. Dave, can you unmute?
That may be my fault. Now you should be able to.
Got it. Great. Hey Bob, what is the commitment, or what would the job of being a co-leader, how much would that take or involve?
I do not know. Many working groups may do most of their communications by email. One of the things I would love the co-leader to be doing is trying to figure out when to meet, when to set a meeting, and even possibly to run the meeting. But it is not specified, but this is all new stuff.
Sounds good.
Martin?
Hey, Bob, you had that very long list of all of those things that you put together. I wanted to get a copy of that list. That seemed like a great thing to have.
You will get, that's the Sierra Club Information, IRA Information Hub. I have set up a Google Drive for all of the documents for this group.
Great.
And we will send it to everyone, but in addition, I will go ahead and try to get it into the chat as soon as I leave. Exit full 3, need to go get the link. I'll go ahead and put the link to that specific chart first, because that is a very interesting chart. I mean, spreadsheet.
Fascinating. And I went ahead and put my email, and I want to be in the comm group. So that's in the chat now. Is that what you want everybody to put their information in there, what group they want to be in?
Yeah, we'll be saving the chat so that we've got everybody's contacts and their the groups they want to be involved with.
Okay, the
Great.
spreadsheet I just put into the chat, and the Sierra Club has helped, has really helped, because they've already started a pretty comprehensive list of the different programs and some key things about them. And we'll be using that unless someone comes up with something better on Sunday, and then we will adapt from there. Okay, Peter, I see your hand up.
Sorry, I've just logged in the last 5 minutes. When you talk, Bob, about sending out information to everybody who's registered, I registered for the Eventbrite. Is that the same list? It was the wrong Zoom meeting. Okay.
That's right. If you register for through Eventbrite, then we have your name and email address, and we'll send all of it to you.
And that will include a link to this recording?
Oh, I think we can probably manage that.
Good, that'll help me catch up. Thank you.
Okay. Charlie. You're still muted.
Charlie, you're still muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Two things I put in the chat that I think are important. One is that the UU Ministry for Earth is a nationwide one, and it's very strong in Texas. I highly recommend it. We're doing a lot of stuff on the ground and so forth. The other thing I'll mention is libraries. I'm plugged into a Harris County library system, and there are a lot of resources there and a lot of ways to spread the word about everything. So anyway, just throwing it out.
Very good. And if you have time and you have the connections, then obviously your involvement with those, with this stuff is easier than for some others. And so that's what I'm hoping we can do. And I mean, if someone just wants to work on, you know, UU churches as their contribution to this team, that's great. Or Catholic churches or any of the others. Steve.
Yeah, this is great. Besides the IRA, did you go over the infrastructure bill? I mean, that one's mammoth, and it's supposed to have some green features, correct? Climate friendly features.
Yeah, yes, I found a document that named some, what was it, Bruce? $240 billion worth of clean stuff.
Lots.
And so we do want the research team to go through that. I don't know if the Sierra Club has a similar list of those provisions. I'm sure somebody does. So somebody in the research team needs to find it and then let us use it. And if worst comes to worse, we'll put it together ourselves from a variety of sources. So yes, we want to include that. I was doing just the IRA because I had the data for it, and that would be illustrative of what this does. But thank you for bringing that up. We do want to include the Infrastructure Innovation Jobs Act programs that relate to the climate as well.
Well, there's going to be I-35 and Project Connect, and probably don't even want to wade into that, but I don't know, maybe just advocating every public opportunity that the impact of those projects be climate neutral or negative would be at least a thumb on the scale, because this money could do a lot more damage than good, and that was not its intention. But if you put it in the hands of the state to spend, they're going to find every wrong way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the money they can't use wrong because it's fairly explicit on how it has to be used. Like the rebate money, they can take it and pass it out, but there's strict rules of how they can do that, and they can't use it for anything else. But you're right. That's a concern I've had, is giving the state a bunch of money without enough control on it. And I hope the agencies are writing the rules very carefully so that not too much of that happens.
Would you say that's the advocacy part, or who would
You bet.
dog that?
Yeah, if that'll be advocacy. Any advocacy to the state, it would come under the advocacy team. And what the advocacy team works on depends on who joins it and what priorities they have. It'll be a discussion. So I think there's a couple of things we definitely want to look at, if not now, eventually, especially those rebates, because that's a huge amount of money that we don't get if the state doesn't write the rules. Bruce.
Yeah, I just wanted to orient people a little bit more. So the federal side of the equation, Biden has elevated this to maximum high priority. And, you know, we're used to being, if you're not in a large corporation, if you're kind of more, you know, small stuff like we're doing here, you're not used to
connecting into large bureaucracies. And there's nothing bad. I don't want to get any impression, make an impression that there's anything bad about it. I think it's really good. And so we're going to be a piece of the puzzle. We're going to be a piece of the workforce. And so when you're looking at how do I solve stuff like that, I encourage you to learn eventually which part of the bureaucracy can help you, because they've got the marching orders to make all of this happen. And we're normally not in a situation where we've got any connection of that kind to leverage.
Yes, it will also make the connections with the state agencies. And most of them have people who are all for what we're doing, and some parts of the government.
It's at every level. So it's municipal on up to feds.
Right. So that's definitely what we need to be involved in. Peter, I see your hand up.
I'm putting into chat a link to a document I put together that is taken from a presentation by Matthew Tejeda, who is I believe he's the Associate Director for Environmental Justice with the EPA. And he gave a presentation to the Climate Reality Project folks. And I took notes and I've put slides together from the subsequent presentation of his. So the idea is, what's important about this is that there are elements of that I think are very important. I very much welcome the research group to take a look at this. For example, they're setting up what they call, the EPA is setting up thriving community technical assistance centers, 17 of them across the United States. They're based in different places in different EPA regions. Ours is region 6. There are 2 of these. They're actually awardees for contracts. So that's one piece. And then there are a number of other pieces in there. For instance, there's an EJ collaborative problem solving program that is for community-based organizations working in partnership with multiple partners. I think if you'll take the time to look through this presentation that is put in an HTML document, you'll see that there are many, many, many streams for getting funding to folks. And I want to say 2 things and I'll shut up again. One is that these programs that the federal government is setting up, not all of them, I'm not speaking of all the programs, but the programs you see talked about here are the goal is to get the money to local groups. It is not through state, it is not through other feds, it's the local groups. And there's a grant writing network you need to look at too. Bottom line, that's number 1, that they're avoiding state governments in this set of grants. Number 2, which is very important for me, is the idea that for them, success looks like all this $2.8 billion flowing out the door. Well, 3, depending on how you're counting, it's at the top of the document. It's flowing out the door because they have 3 years. This program with the IRA, you have to get the money out the door in 3 years. So they're not looking at big dollar items that, 15 million bucks. How are you going to 50 million bucks? How are you going to structure something that can get in place and have results that are documented within 3 years? So the bottom line is they are looking for success by local groups, because what they say is that we want to show that the old formula-driven processes that people know so well, that's not the best way. The best way is to get the money directly into people's hands. I've included links to each of the different programs that Tejeda listed. So I think you'll find it if you take the time, and I very much, everybody can look at it. And you can pass around if you want to. That's a public link.
And I hope the research team will do that. One of the ideas is there's a lot of people who have talked about a lot of things. And so we want to not only gather presentations, slideshows, articles, but we want them annotated I can't watch 50 videos. You know, if there's one that's fantastic, then people can say, you know, the research team can just say, hey, these are the ones that are most important, or hey, this is a great one on agriculture, if that's what you're interested, or this is a great one on the rebates, if that's what you're interested in. So that's part of the whole idea is in addition, is to gather the information that lots of different people have and make it easily available to anybody in the country who wants access. Dave, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and I also just want to point, I see Darshana's hand up also. I was just gonna ask, I feel like I'm interested in like 3 of these, but I don't want to overwhelm myself or like overcommit and then not be able to do all of them. Do you have any advice on like, I don't know, just choose one or come to the first 3 meetings and then choose or something along those lines?
Yeah, you can take a look at the spreadsheet on the 3 you're interested in and see if it looks like there'll be much there that we might want to do. You know, in one case, like the Treasury Department one, the first 2 items, which are many $billion, have to do with all of the home tax credits and the energy efficiency tax credits. And I think one researcher should take just that one because it's so big. And then there's others where it looks like, oh, well, we don't have to get involved with the post office buying electric vehicles and so forth. So part of it has to do with that. And you can always sign up for one and then come back and sign up for another. And I think, and we'll talk about this at the working group, having pairs of people working on some of these, it could be a really nice thing to have, you know, 2 people, but it can work either way. So that's what. Okay,
Thanks, Bob.
I'm a climate reality leader, your chapter chair in San Antonio. Bob, you know me, you got the training too, Bob.
Yes,
You and my
Darshana,
mentee.
I'm very
Yeah.
happy with what the climate reality is doing.
Yeah, so I just attended, just before this thing, I attended the climate reality presentation for same thing, same purpose. So
Right.
they have, if you sign up on Reality Hub, if you join the Reality Hub, they have beautiful presentations, and that's what I just learned. So they have a slide deck, they have all the social kit and toolkit and everything together, and we can do the presentation here, or anybody who is climate reality leader, they can reach out. I mean, they can see on Reality Hub. So this is the source available besides what you're talking.
Thank you, and we definitely need to have that linked. When I looked 2 weeks ago, I couldn't find much, but apparently they got it up since. And anybody doesn't know, Climate Reality does the most gorgeous slides. They really have high quality slides generally.
Yeah, I got their full set of slides just a few days ago.
Yeah, they say it's our climate moment. This campaign is called Our Climate Moment, and the slide deck is there. That's what they told me just now earlier.
And we would love to be working with the Climate Reality volunteers as well, no question.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't get the word out to you. I've been scrambling to put this thing together and
No problem, no problem. I'm here, yeah.
And my slides aren't nearly as slick as the ones Climate Reality does. But anyway,
Thank you.
okay, Bruce, your hand is up. But you never put it down before, so I don't know. Do you have something to say or ask? Okay, no. Okay. Anybody else? My goodness, it's already 8 o'clock. Okay, so.
Bob,
if the
hello. Can you hear me?
Chris?
That large list you had on that page that had all those columns that had been highlighted,
Yes?
I don't mind helping out with the research, but it seems to me that, and tell me if you have a preference of where to start. I mean, I can research anything. I've had to do this before working for a federal government contractor, but I'm telling you, if you have a priority, that's what we should go off. That's what she should focus.
just based on the number of people that are here at this point. So just throwing that out, just to see if you have thought of some priorities off that list. That's all.
Well, I think the whole group should talk about priorities on Sunday. And so, we'll, some people will want to do something that may not be the top priority, but is something they're really good at, or they really are interested in, and that's important. And then I think we'll identify a few that I think we really hope someone will take up. So
Okay.
we'll do that. And so one of the last things I want to say is that, again, we're going to send out information. It'll be the same Zoom as this one on each of those working groups. And I will send out the notices. We are ready to roll. In fact, Bruce Naylor is doing a presentation this Sunday at First Unitarian Universal about the IRA and how congregationalists there can use it. And so we're not going to wait. This time, I don't want to wait a long time figuring things out, establishing procedures and so forth. We're going to go ahead and start the work, and then we'll adapt as we go is the way I think we're going to try it.